You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week I got on Kevin Toye. Kevin Toye is a backcountry bow hunter from British Columbia, actually. So Kevin is another one of those guys that I just love to follow on social media and stuff. He's super motivating. The guy works really hard. Just blue-collar guy, family man, and just love watching him just get after it day after day, and then also get some animals on the ground year after year. So I wanted to do an episode with Kevin to talk about all things archery and how diving down the archery rabbit hole can most definitely make somebody a better bow hunter. I've kind of seen this firsthand with myself. The more I've done my own tuning, built my own arrows, understanding my setup more, I've just felt so much more confident out there in the field as a bow hunter. So I think it's a great episode for somebody either starting out, going down the archery rabbit hole, or maybe they already have and they can still pick up a few nuggets here and there. So definitely go check him out on Instagram at Kevin Toye. And then also I meant to plug it in the episode too. So he is just getting rolling this platform, Hunt Source, with a couple guys also from Canada. And they want to make that platform a great content resource for anybody hunting north of the border. So they're going to be putting out a ton of content like that. So go check them out. They have a YouTube page, an Instagram page. They're going to be doing gear reviews and their hunt films. And they have a podcast as well. So definitely go give them a follow and a subscribe. So that's the episode this week. Here's a huge announcement, though, that I wanted to make on this episode. So I'm doing a giveaway with Mountain Tough Fitness. So over the next few weeks, you can enter for a chance to win 1 year totally free subscription to the Mountain Tough app. So that's, 1 year completely free. If you haven't heard of Mountain Tough, it's a fitness app designed for hunters to get ready for the backcountry. So I've been using it the last few months. I love the fact that it's just so simple that a fitness trainer can just be right on there and put you through a great workout where you don't even have to think. You just need to show up. So whether you're at the gym or at home, they have programs kind of for everyone, every skill set on there. They also have a lot of good content as far as nutrition and mobility, yoga, mindset, all these things. So that's the app. For a chance to win 1 year free, there's 2 ways to gain entries. So the first way, if you leave a rating and a review to this podcast, Run the Rack Outdoors podcast on either Apple or Spotify, that'll be 1 entry. So make sure you tune in when I announce the winner because I'll be pulling the name from the review section. So make sure your name's in there, even if it's just your handle for your Spotify or Apple account. Just tune in because that's the name I'll be picking from. The other way, and this way you can get 10 entries this way. If you buy a Run the Rack hat, and I have these in gray, like the one I'm wearing right now, and then also I have ones in camo. And you can see those on my page too, and I'll be posting about it. So if you buy a Run the Rack hat, you can gain 10 entries. And I don't have an online store quite set up yet, but if you shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, I will absolutely get one mailed out to you. Call it $25 all in to get it shipped out to you. I really appreciate the support, and we'll just use Venmo or something like that. All good. So I have a limited supply of the hats, so definitely reach out as soon as you can. I think what I'm going to do is I'll keep announcing this for the next few episodes, and then that first week in August, during that intro of that episode, I will pull a name from a random number selector. I'll just probably make a spreadsheet here on the side. And if you get more than 1 entry, I'll just add your name, however many times, give everybody a random number, do a random number drawing, and then correlate that to the appropriate name. So I'll just do that live on the episode at that point. So keep listening and stay tuned in. So get entered for a chance to win 1 year free on the Mountain Tough app. So that's the giveaway. Other things going on. At the time of this recording, I'll have released episode 2 of my training for 100-mile ultra marathon. That'll be on my YouTube channel. So that's basically the past week of training. I am still hitting the gym, still lifting weights, but I'm really focused on running, preparing for this 100 miler. So I did 90 miles last week and a ton of climbing. I spent the weekend up at the course in northern Pennsylvania, just in the state forest up there. I got a little tent site, and that's all I was doing was just training and eating and sleeping. So it was a good time. That's all on the latest YouTube episode if you want to go check that out. I also share some things that I'm doing to build my endurance during this training block and some other things that have worked for me. But yeah, knocked out 90 miles last week, and I got 100 miles on the docket this week with another big crazy weekend I'm planning out as well. And then that'll put me just a few weeks away from Eastern State's 100 miler. So I'm stoked. And then at that point, I'll let the body recover for a little bit, and I'll be spending the next few weeks there in August getting ready to leave in September because I got that high country mule deer tag, which I'm going to first, and that's in Colorado. And then I'm going to go chase elk in Idaho for the latter part of September. So got most September off work, and then I'm going to come back home and chase my whitetails and my bears whenever I can at that point. So that's what I got going on, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Kevin. Don't forget to get entered into the Mountain Tough giveaway, and let's have another great week. Let's give it all we got, and let's run the rack. All right, everybody. Thanks. See ya. Go Hunt has a single purpose: make it easier for hunters to get into the field. Hunting tags are only getting harder to obtain, and Go Hunt is a research platform helping navigate the ins and outs of drawing tags and researching hunts across the West. I've had a Go Hunt membership for years now, and I'm a big fan of the articles written on there by Brady and Trail. The content is next level stuff that has helped me a ton. From animal behavior to archery, they are sharing all the nuggets. I also love the hunt films on YouTube. They are extremely inspirational, and they'll make you want to get out in the mountains ASAP. Check out the Go Hunt Gear Shop, where they have everything you need for this coming hunting season. Use the code RACK, that's R-A-C-K, for 10% off eligible items in the shop. And you can use the code RACK for $50 in-shop credit when you join as an insider. So sign up for a membership and immediately get $50 back toward hunting gear. Check it out, you won't regret it. Mountain Tough produces industry-leading functional fitness programming tested and proven by backcountry hunters and mountain athletes. Mountain Tough's programming allows users to train at home, at the gym, or on the go. These videos are like having a personal trainer right there with you every workout, wherever you are. Guys, I've been rocking the Mountain Tough workouts this past summer. I've been doing the mountain strength workouts as I'm putting on a ton of miles prepping for my 100-mile ultramarathon. This way, I'm going to be totally ready for hunting season once September comes around. There's also so much more video content on the app, including nutrition, yoga, mental health, and one of my personal favorites is the daily mobility. Use code RACK for 1 free month on the app. That's RACK, R-A-C-K, for 1 entire free month to try it out. Give it a look, and let's get Mountain Tough. Kevin, how's it going, brother?
Good, buddy. How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Man, you're just killing it lately. I've been, binging on your episodes whenever I get a chance. So yeah, good for you, brother. It's good to see. And dude, you're putting in the miles too. So yeah, you're a beast. So I've been loving the content you've been putting out. So it's been great.
Thanks, man, dude. I've just been loving it. So we started talking a little bit before I hit record. I'm just like, I do feel like I'm always running around all day, like literally and like literally and like emotionally, but like just to like have podcasts like this, sit down with like really good people, and then also just be able to train for this 100-miler and do all these things. It's like, dude, I can't even get stressed out. Like these are get-tos. Like it's so awesome, and I'm stoked to have you on, dude. I've been following you for a while. I did a podcast with you last year, and you're just, dude, you're another dude that just gets after it. I know you talked a little bit about your meniscus there a little bit, so we're working through that, but still getting it done on the bike and just getting ready for the fall. So I don't want to pump you up too much. I'll let you kind of, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, where you from and everything you got going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name is Kevin Toye. I'm a Canadian. I live up in British Columbia. So I grew up in northern British Columbia. So obviously the outdoors was very present with me growing up. There wasn't much time where I didn't have a fishing rod or wasn't chasing after squirrels with a homemade bow and arrow. So yeah, I just grew up in the outdoors, and I love everything in the outdoors. And as I kind of got older, and I moved down to the southern, more sunny part of British Columbia, and started chasing elk and mule deer, and then kind of fell in love with bow hunting through that. And yeah, just same thing as you, man. Just blue collar guy. Just love getting after it. Love training. Love preparing for the mountains. And for me, that's what it's all about, is running and training and all this stuff I do for bow hunting. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy getting after it. And like yourself, I try not to leave anything on the table at the end of the day. I try to make sure I get the most of the day. And I'm a father and have 3 kids, and so they keep me really busy. So let's just say I don't get a lot of sleep. Probably not as much as I definitely should, which is probably you and I have known each other now for a few years, and as you know, I'm no stranger to injury.
Dude, it'll happen. It'll happen. But no, I love seeing your grind. Like even just the videos where it's like you're out doing your blue collar stuff, you're with the family, and then shooting the bow, and then training. It's just like, dude, that's what it's all about. Like that gets me fired up, and just need guys like that in the industry for sure. So loving what you put out.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Like I said, it's not easy, but I try to get it in every day. It starts with the morning for me, getting up at 4 a.m. and heading downstairs, and I got a few weights at the house here, which allows me the opportunity to train whenever I want. And so, up at 4 a.m., out the door before 7, and then 8 hours of work, and then home and family life. And hopefully I can still squeeze in. I try to shoot 100 arrows a day. I don't always get it. I mean, some days I manage to get more, and some days I manage to get a lot more. So I really enjoy those days when I do. But for me, it's all about, it's just not leaving anything on the table at the end of the day. I know I can go to sleep at the end of the day, and knew I did everything I had to do to get ready for the backcountry, because man, like we were talking about before you hit record there, September's coming quick, brother. And
I know.
all this stuff we do, I love training. I love it. I love running. I love lifting weights. I love everything about it. But I love chasing critters with my bow. Just, I love it more than that. So,
dude, it's funny you say that, because just today, so my brother, he's 2 years older than me. He's the biggest killer I've ever met, even from a young age. He's not as into the whole social media. He just wants to kill shit. So I respect that, And like we were on the phone today, like he called me and he was just like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Nothing." Like he's like, "What are you doing later?" I was like, "Probably go for my run, shoot the bow." And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I just wish we could like just go hunting." And I was like, "I know." Like we're just in these like dog days a little bit, just because we love it so much. But he gets so dialed in. Like we were over, like we have he has like more property than I do, and we cleared out like this whole stretch of woods, and then we have like a whitetail 3D, and then he got a mini elk, and then we had this bear at my dad's house, and then I was like, well, if I'm gonna come here and shoot, I don't want to just like I want to provide something. So then I bought a mule deer target, so we got our own like little half 3D course there,
nice.
and just that's what we've been doing, just shooting the bows. And like I love shooting 3D. I feel like that's also like if I can shoot an animal target, I just feel like that does help me a lot more than dots. I don't know.
Yeah, it does for sure. And I mean, that is the beauty of 3D, and 3D has come a long way in the last 5 years, especially, with what the guys have done at TAC and how big that event has become, and just social media in general has really opened bow hunters' eyes, and archers' eyes to this 3D thing. And like the hunters love it. I mean, how could you not? You get a chance to shoot at animals when it's not hunting season. I mean, perfectly honest, personally like shooting at paper myself. I love the 300. I love shooting 18 meters, that 300 score. 720 is, I enjoy that as well. But, I really do like the 3D, and I take every advantage of of getting out and competing with the boys. And whenever you get out to those events, it's nice because you're always going with family or you're going with friends, and it's always trash talk. There's a lot, it's just such a good time, and I really love it. But for me, it's I do love the 3D, but I really enjoy that 300 round, that Vegas face. To me, it's just there's no, I I grew up with this idea that you had to shoot far to become a better shooter. And it wasn't until I got into target, especially that 18 meters, that I realized how proficient you have to be at shooting to put that arrow in a spot that is the size of a dime 30 times in a row. It's just, you have to, everything comes down to where it's like you're breathing, you're controlling everything. Your shot process has to be so dialed in to make that happen. And that arrow has to break, controlling your breath and just allowing that shot to break when it has to, because it doesn't take much for that arrow to be outside. And the thing about shooting at paper is the paper doesn't lie. Like, I've done it. A lot of guys do it, pretty much most. You go to the range, or you go and shoot at a target, and you're shooting at 50 yards, and you're shooting, say, 50 arrows. And you shoot one really good group, right? You go out there and you're like, oh yeah, look at that group. I got 50, I'm shooting 50 yards. I got 3 or 4 arrows on a 3-inch group, and you take a picture of it and post it on Instagram. And hey man, that's good shooting. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not dogging that. But the thing is, when you're just shooting at a target and you're not keeping score, it's really easy to forget about the arrow that flew a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, or was high or low. And like most of the time, those are all, that's something in your shot that broke down, right? It's not like archery is just all about consistency. It's just repeating the same process over and over and over, exactly the same every single time. But when you're shooting at paper and you look at that paper after and there's a hole, 4 inches to the right or left, it's like, well, I can't forget about that one because it's right there. It's not lying. It's telling me the truth. And that is one of the things I think that has really helped my shooting in the last couple of years, is just shooting that 18 meters. And it's something I tell all bow hunters to do. I'm like, in the wintertime, what you should do, go in your garage, find a place 18 meters away, order some Vegas faces off Amazon, or go down to your local archery shop, buy them, and just start keeping score, and do that consistently over the winter. Because the in Canada here, especially, like, man, it's dark at 3:30 in the afternoon, and it doesn't get light again until 8 in the morning. So basically, from the time you go to work to the time you get home is your only daylight. You can put that target in your garage, or you can find a range, and I mean, there's lots of good clubs out there that have men's nights for indoor. But you'd be surprised how much of a better archer you become just by shooting that indoor 300. And I mean, as bow hunters, who wouldn't want to be a better archer, really?
For sure. And that's something I've thought about looking into, and the way you kind of sold it there, I feel like I know I need to, because I'm definitely, it's like anything. It's like going to the gym and like tracking that, maybe tracking like your weight, or you're tracking your food, or you're tracking your money. Like if I can track and like manage things and like try to beat the score from last time,
Mm-hmm.
like that's how you can get better, and like you're much more intentional. And I like what you're saying, because I feel like it's hitting home for me, and that's something I might want to explore more, getting those Vegas targets and doing that. And I could see that too. Like you can put a scenario that could happen all the time. Like say you're shooting, and then you've like your personal best is so many X's or whatever, and you're getting towards the end, and it's like this added pressure where I might not get if I'm just I'll try to like do things like give myself scenarios, or try to shoot faster, or like split pins and all these things. But any chance I can to like put that added pressure, that's probably really helpful.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, it's improving, right? You have a score, you have a reference. So at the beginning, depending on what level you're at, say you shoot a 285 or 275, and then you keep working on that, and then your scores just gradually increase, they gradually get better, right? And you do this throughout it's like anything. It's like running, it's like training. it's not going to happen overnight, right? And you're going to, and archery is this ballet of ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're just nailing it, and then other times you're like, man, what am I doing here? I need to slow down, and I need to walk myself through the shot process. And that's what shooting at paper really, it really holds you accountable for that, because if there's any little flaw in your process, in your shot, it's going to show up on paper. And that's the beauty of paper. That's why I like it so much, because the paper doesn't lie. As much as you wish like that arrow didn't go there, or you did a little bit better, or you felt it broke at the right time, it goes where it goes. And I've just know that for myself, I just become such a more efficient shooter just shooting at that 18 meters. It's not far. And it's funny, a lot of guys will laugh and be like, oh, I can hit that every time. Well, try it. Let's just see.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
bet.
shoot a lot of arrows. My best score was a 300 with 25 X's, and I shot around 6 to 12 rounds a day trying to get that 30X score. And unfortunately, I didn't get it. Next winter, I'm gonna get it. So I'm going to Vegas next year, taking my son down there. So we're both
Nice.
gonna shoot. So my goal is that 30X, because I mean, I don't know if you follow target archery much, but you see the competition that's down there. And I'm not, I know I'm never going to compete against guys like Chris Perkins and Matthias Fullerton and those guys, but just being around the archery world, the target guys, has made me such a better shooter. And like I said, I challenge any of the guys out there listening, this winter, order a bunch of 300 faces 18 meters away and just shoot at that every day. And you're going to keep score, you're going to see what your score is, you're going to challenge yourself to be better. And that's the thing. It's like it's like running that first 5K or those first 5 miles. It's like, it sucks, you think you're going to do better than you do, and you don't. And then it's just a slow progression. You do that throughout the winter, and all of a sudden it's spring bear time, and you're going to look at your scores and be like, man, this is amazing. Then it's going to warm up, the snow is going to melt, you're going to go outside, you're going to shoot at 50 yards, and you're going to be splitting arrows.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's awesome.
And I love how you kind of said before too, like just becoming a better archer. Like for me, okay, growing up, I always we hunted, I bow hunted, but never really was diving into tuning, diving into like the technical things. And I remember as I got older, and I'll never forget, I was hunting on my dad's property, and I hit this buck during the rut, this nice 9-point that was running around. He was probably sub 25 yards, smacked him right in the shoulder. Never found the buck. I remember I took the next day off work, still trying to find that buck, and I just felt so terrible. And I could have easily just blame the bow or blamed whatever, blah blah blah. And I remember from that point on being like, hey, I got this old bow I know nothing about. I'm shooting arrows I know nothing about. I you know this was years ago. Like I'm starting to see guys like online, like they have their setup and they're just dialed. Like I really don't know much about tuning. Like I'm gonna learn, and I'm not saying I'm an expert now, but like I'm gonna learn how to do this shit. So
Yeah, you're gonna learn the basics, you're gonna learn the
yeah,
fundamentals of archery
yep,
and understanding your equipment, which is a big thing. I mean, as a bow hunter, as an archer, you should have a basic understanding of how things work. And I'm not saying you need to be like Bergie Bowsmith or all these great Pool or all these great tuners, but just having a basic understanding of your bow, your equipment, how to tie a D loop. You'd be surprised how many guys don't know how to tie a D loop. And like,
mm-hmm.
man, if you're carrying your most important tool into one of your most important tools into the backcountry, a bow on a bow hunt, if something happens to your D loop, you should have in your little archery kit that's in your backpack, you should have a spare D loop, and you should be able to tie it. Because like if you're on a 5-day hunt and you're 3 days in and that happens and you have to leave, you got to blow out of there now because your D loop ripped or tore. It looks like it's going to tear. I mean, that's just so unfortunate, right? And like it's just understanding your equipment and sometimes people's equipment is messed up. It is faulty. It does need improvement, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys are better shooters than their equipment's allowing them to be. So having a good understanding of your equipment, for me, it's so imperative. And like once you get to the level of where you know all these little tiny details make the difference. That stuff really plays an important role. I mean, you can get going down the rabbit hole and get into the weeds of like FOC and arrows. And like, I remember talking to Chris Perkins once, and he was telling me he would feel different point weight on his arrow tip when he's at full draw, like crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so instead of running like a 275 grain, he could feel the difference in a 200,
You could feel
250
it.
grain. Yeah, feel it in his shot. And well, I
Okay.
mean, we're talking about
Yeah.
world-class archers,
Yeah.
right? And like when you shoot with a world-class archer and you hang around with a world-class
Next
archer,
level.
next level, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like playing pass with Tom Brady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're as bow hunters, we all like to believe that we're really good shooters, but when you hang out with somebody that has the ability to shoot that good, but also shoot that good under pressure, and that's the big
Yeah.
thing is being in that pressure. And like you kind of touched on it earlier, shooting the Vegas round is what it's really nice is like because it allows you to feel that pressure, right? You're doing really good. You're coming up on your PR and you have 3 arrows left to go and you're like, man, if I can just nail these 3 10s, this would be the best score I ever had. And like your heart starts pumping and there's nobody around, but still your heart starts pumping. And then you get into it and then you start shooting in these leagues and you start shooting at these tournaments. And I tell you, man, when they say archers to the line, even though you're on a line with 30 other dudes, your heart is pumping, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy feeling. And I remember, it's so relatable to hunting because I remember talking to Kyle Douglas, like one of the best archers in the world, and I was asking him about the pressure on the line and comparing that to elk hunting, and he's like, he was telling me how very similar it is to elk hunting, right? Just feeling that pressure, and it's just reps, right? It's putting yourself in high pressure situations, whether it's 100-miler or whether it's shooting on the line or whether it's calling in a bull and having him breathing and panting. You can smell him 15 feet away. All he needs to do is break that bush and you can draw back and put one in his engine room. But yeah, it's just so relatable.
Yeah, I've actually done like 3D shoots like with other guys, but I remember last couple years like when my brother and I will go, and he beats my ass like in everything, but I'll start like poking at him and I'll throw money on it. I'm like, come on, like let's put some money down for today, just to add that pressure because I know it's only going to make me better, and I think that's something too. But really, I did want to get into this today because over the years, yeah. So now, like, I've taken such a deep dive, and now every year I can confidently, build my own arrows. I can tune. I know everything about my arrow setup. I know that I'm shooting bullet holes through paper, like all these things. Again, I'm still not an expert, and I don't think it takes a ton to be. You can go down so many rabbit holes, but just to get to the point where you're like very confident in your setup and you're confident out in the field, where like the D loop example, like I bring an archery repair kit and like just something like that, man. Like, could you imagine you're 4 or 5 miles in, you're up at 12,000 feet, your D loop rips, and like you either didn't bring it or like, dude, think about how many people will bring it because somebody on YouTube told them to, but they don't know how to tie it. And then like you're hunting, so you're probably not 10 minutes outside of like Denver, Colorado, where there's 8 different bow shops. Like you're maybe like an hour from town. Don't know if they have a shop there. Like you might be 4 or 5 hours away. You might totally screw yourself up. But to where you're tinkering kind of all year. And again, just confident in your setup. You're gonna be more confident at full draw. So I just kind of wanted to like walk through at a high level, like maybe what's bare minimum stuff guys can start doing, because it is the summer right now. You'd like to think guys are at least shooting their bows and maybe not waiting to the last minute till the fall to run in their bow shop to check their tune because something doesn't look right or something like that. So
yeah,
wanted to get into that.
I think the most important thing is support your local bow shop, right? Try not to buy things from the big, Lancaster, although Lancaster's great. Try to support your local shops because those are the guys that are going to be there when you need them. Hey, man, my string broke or my cable broke. I know it's Saturday and you're closing in an hour, but I'm leaving for a hunt tomorrow. Do you think you could help me out? Yeah, no problem. Right? You come in here all the time, you buy everything from me. You know what? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to stay an extra hour, and then I'm going to meet you here tomorrow morning before you go, and we'll throw your strings on. You can shoot a couple arrows, and we'll send you on your hunt. And that's the kind of thing that you get, and those are relationships that you build when you support your local archery shops. And I've always maintained this belief that you really need to foster that relationship between yourself as a bow hunter, as an archer, and your archery shop. So to me, that's the most important thing. Find your archery shop, the closest one you have. Find one that you can relate to and the ones you like. I mean, down in the US, you guys have a lot more options than we do, obviously, because you have way more archers than we do, way more bow hunters, just due to population size. But and then, just start hanging around your shop and then buy things from them. Try to buy as much as you can. Yes, you might have to pay a little bit more, but it's going to come around in the long run. I know our local archery shop here, they get a lot of guys, and I talked to the owner and Tom. He's like, man, these people buy these bows off like Cabela's or these big box stores because they're going to save $200, and then they bring them down to me, and I have to put it together for him, and then I got to charge him. Right? He's got to make a living. He's got to keep his lights on. He's charging them $200 to $300. Whereas if you would have just bought that bow, spent an extra $200, bought the bow from him, he would have spent an hour with you. You could have shot arrows at the range. You could have checked his timing. You could have checked your D-loop, made sure your peep height's proper height, and all this stuff, right? Make sure you're shooting the right arrows for your poundage. All these little things that you're going to get when you build a relationship with your bow shop. So for me, that's what I always tell people is number one. It's like, build a relationship with your bow shop. Because not everyone's going to have a press in their garage. Not everyone's going to have all the tools that you need to do a lot of these, the high end maintenance stuff. I mean, other than like tying a D loop, which I believe every bow hunter and archer should take the time. You can YouTube it. Like, there's probably a million YouTube videos in there on how to tie a D loop, and that all depends on like a D loop, like understanding your D loop. Understanding your D-loop and your let-off can have a huge impact on your shot. Because if your D-loop is too short, and depending on the release you shoot, when you come to full draw, if you're shooting a bow that has 90% let-off, you come to full draw, that string is very loose, right? And so any deviation, when you come to anchor, if you have a lot of nose pressure on your string, it's going to move your peep sight. And it's the same thing with your D-loop. If you're shooting a thumb button, and you go to anchor and you twist it, now what you're doing is you're twisting that string. It's not under tension. It's easy to twist. So I like to tie a little bit longer D-loop to pick up the slack. So it's twisting the D-loop. It's not twisting the string cable, right? And little things like that. So like understanding that kind of stuff, I think, is important. And I think all those things, you don't need a press for that. You don't need to have all these other things that you do if if you need to check your timing. A lot of bows now, like the Bow Tech has the time lock, so you can adjust your timing. And Darton just came out with their new system, so which makes it super easy. And a lot of these bow manufacturers are making these bows really tunable, and it's making the consumer, the bow hunter, the archer, it's giving them the ability to do a lot more work on their bow, which I think is great. But you still have to have an understanding of why it's important. And like, again, it goes back to spending, not just watching stuff on YouTube, taking it down to your bow shop and then just working with them and saying, okay, well, why are you doing that? Like, as they're working on it, give them a hand, right? Put your finger on the string when they're retying your serving, and little things like that. They go a long way. And like, even when you take your bow in, bring your arrow with you, because knock pinch is a real thing, and that can have a huge influence on what your arrows are doing downrange. And I don't think a lot of guys know that. I think guys are just ordering stuff online, and if they come with X knocks, they come with X knocks. And if I have a .21 serving on it and it's tight, right? They don't know any better. But little things like that, I think, go a long way. But again, it just comes down to taking the time as an archer, as a bow hunter, to do your due diligence. It's the same way. You need to put the same amount of effort into that. Like you said, it's the summertime, as you would your gear list, right? The guys are like, we all love gear. What hunter doesn't love gear? Like, we all love it, right? We put so much time and effort into our gear, and like watching YouTube videos on like this pack, and like, like this pack compared to that pack, or these boots compared to that boot, or this holes, or this tent. You need to be doing the same thing with your bow.
Yeah, totally. And even everything you said there too was great information. But I think even taking another step back, I talk to a lot of people too, just in the day-to-day kind of around here, and just talking about shooting through paper in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I have found this firsthand. Like, if you're going to shoot your bow through paper, you need to be the person shooting it. Because there's a lot of people, that might. Well, first of all, I talked to a lot of people that I don't know the last time they checked their tune in their bow. But then also there's a group of people that they go to the big box store and they're like, well, the guy working back there shot it and he said it was tuned, and I'm like, well, okay. There's so many different factors that kind of go into when we say tuning. What the goal is we want that arrow flying out of the bow straight. And if it's deviating at any sort of angle, left, right, up, down, or a combination of any, you're not only losing the potential energy you can have into that arrow flying down range, but you're also going to be very inconsistent. It's going to fly different. It's going to have more drag. And then you're not really sighted in as perfectly as you could be, because your pin might be telling you here, but if your arrow's flying, I'm holding a pen here for people listening on audio, but if you're flying at an angle through the air, it's not only going to, what's it called, the archer's paradox, where it's really going to start to deviate and fly through the air, but by the time it gets to that target, you're going to be less accurate. So the straighter we can get that thing, and making sure that arrow, and we can talk about too weak or too stiff, it's not flying down range like a wet noodle. It's flying stiff enough, but not too stiff. I don't know. We can touch on all these little things, but that's the
better
key.
too
And
stiff than too weak.
We want to be on that side.
Yeah, you definitely want to be on that. But tuning is a rabbit hole, because I mean, you can get into paper tuning, you get into line tuning, walkback tuning, French tuning, broadhead tuning. There's so many, like tiller tuning, all this stuff, torque tuning, and like it never ends, right? But I mean, for the most part, do you need to worry about that? No, I don't think so. Do you need to shoot through paper? 100%. So for me,
I agree 100%. Yep.
What I do for my tuning is, so what I'll do is I'll set my bow up and I will put it in the draw. I'll set it up, get it to my draw length. I am 29 3/8, and how I do that is I run 29.5-inch mods on my Matthews, and I crank the cables down until I get the measurement I want from the throat, the inside of the grip, to the string where the saddle of the arrow is going to sit on the string. So basically on the inside of the string. I do that, and well, first of all, I put my rest on, and then I check my timing, get my draw length gun perfect, then I get my timing perfect. And for those who don't know what timing is, it is just making sure your cable stops or your limb stops are having point of contact with your bow at the same time. Now, there is some times when I will advance my top cam. So if I typically start out with both my cams hitting at the same time. Now, the advantage of having your top cam advance a little before your bottom cam is because it almost acts as like a lower percentage let off. Is what it happens is, because you're gonna get to that top cam, and it's gonna hit your cable or your limb. Now you have to pull a little harder into the back wall to get that bottom cam to sync with your top cam. And what happens is, when you're at full draw, anybody can try this too. On a windy day, come to full draw, and then just give it a little pull, a little give it a little extra pull, and just watch how much your bow stabilizes, because you're pulling harder, right? It's under more tension. The more tension, the more stable it is. The harder it is also to hold it there at full draw. So, make sure you're going to let that, don't sit there and think you're going to hold it for a long time, unless you practice. But so I get my timing good, and then the next thing I do is I will shoot through paper. So I'm going to shoot through paper, and I don't shoot one arrow through paper. And now this is all assuming that I've already picked the arrows I'm going to shoot. I shoot pretty much the same arrows. I was shooting the RIP TKOs for the longest time. I switched to the HLRs, and now I'm bouncing between the XVs and the RIP TKOs that Victory makes. I'm going on Chris Perkins and I are doing this goat hunt in northern BC here. I'm taking the XVs just because they're lightning fast. So anyway, so when I shoot through paper, I don't shoot bare shaft. I shoot my arrows fletched because that's what I'm going to shoot. I'm not shooting bare shaft arrows, so I don't bother wasting my time with those. Not that it's a waste of time. If that's your process, it's your process. I just don't do it.
No, this is good. This is assuming, everybody's we could challenge anybody listening to this that's still like level 0. You can hang up a piece of paper between 2 studs in your basement, tomorrow, and tape it on there, and however you want to do it, and just shoot through paper, and you can check this as you listen. So
So like I said, I already have my arrows built. Now what I do is I just don't shoot one arrow through paper. I shoot every arrow through paper. Now the reason I do this is because I index all my arrows, and what I mean by index is I'll shoot one arrow. If it has a low right tear, I'll shoot another arrow. If it has a low right tear, perfect, right? I'll put them in the same pile. I'll keep shooting till I find an arrow that doesn't have a low right tear. If it has a bullet hole, or if it has the opposite tear or a different tear, I'm going to turn that arrow. If you're shooting a 4-fletched, turn it 1/4. Shoot it again. You're going to notice a difference in tear. And,
turning meaning, we're spinning. We're spinning the arrow, the nock. Yeah.
So it's knocked on your string, and then give it a 1/4 twist. Right? If you're shooting 3 vanes, you only have the ability to move it 3 times, obviously, because you don't want your vane upside down smacking your rest as the arrow flies by. So you do that until all your arrows have the exact same tear. Now this is important because if I just shot one arrow and I really say, okay, shoot, I got a high right tear. Now I go tune my bow for that high right tear, right? Well, now what happens is I'm going to go shoot all my other arrows, or I'm not going to shoot my other arrows. I'm just going to assume that they have the same tear, which they won't, which they usually do not. They all have different tears. Even Victory says spine aligned at the top. That's not their spine alignment, right? You can test them all yourself if you want. You can float test your arrows, and to float test them, it's really simple. Just take 2 nocks, put them in a bath. The heavy side is going to sink to the bottom, right, and then mark it. Right, that's the easiest way to check your spine of your arrows. So anyway, so I get all my arrows the same, and then I tune my bow from there, and it all depends what my arrow's doing, right? And that's the importance of spending time with your local archery shop and that, and say, hey, I got a low right tear in this bow. There's a handful of differences. Different bows react to different tears, but normally you want to move your nock. If you have a point high left tear, you want to either move your rest to your point, or you're going to move your nocking point your cams to your nocking point. So your rest to your point, or your cams you're going to move to your nocking point. Generally, it's not always that. Sometimes it is a little wonky, but for the most part, that's what I do. And then from then on, what I do next is I put my sight in, and then I sight my bow in for 20 yards, because that's my zero. I zero every bow in at 20 yards. If you zero at 30, let's go to 30 and shoot 30. I haven't put a sight yet on. I don't put a sight, I haven't put a peep on. I put my sight on. I sight in for my zero, which is 20. Once I have that sight, my scope where it needs to be, once I have the pin where it needs to be to hit 20 yards with my arrows, then I now can put my peep sight in. The reason I don't put my peep sight in first is because it is very easy to manipulate yourself to find your peep. Because your peep, once it's in your bow, it does not move. But it's easy to move your head. It's easy to shrug your shoulders. It's easy to change your anchor, right? To find, if you're close, if your peep is very close to around your housing, most people will just put a sight on, and they don't even know if it hits 20 yet. Most people now too, they shoot sliders, right? And then the more you slide, if you're going to go up or down, it's going to change your anchor point, right? If you're shooting at 20 yards, your anchor is not the same as it is at 60. It has to change. So the reason, like I said, I do that is I sight it in. So now I know at 0, my scope is not going to change. My pin is not going to change. That pin is where that needs to be for that bow to hit 20 yards. And then I put my peep in. So now what I do is I have a general idea, on a 33-inch axle bow at full draw on a 5mm arrow. I'm 3 7/8 up from the arrow. So how I determine that is I put it in a draw board, knock an arrow, measure 3 7/8, and I make a little mark on my string, and then I pop my peep sight in. However, depending on what sight you're running, if some sites I run a fair ways off my riser, others I run really close. So for like 3D, I'm running my sight a little further off my riser than I am for hunting. So it changes. So my setup has to change. But the thing is, when my scope is in the position where it's not going to move, now I know when I come to full draw, the only thing that has to move is my peep sight. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's easy
I like
it's
this.
easy to
Yeah,
it's
because
easy to move your head
Mhm.
at something that is not going to move. And like I see it all the time when I'm setting up other people's bows. I'm like, is it good? And then they move their shoulder a little bit and they're like, oh yeah, it's good. I'm like, no, it's not good, because you just moved. Now you're adjusting your anchor. Now you're manipulating your shot for your bow. And like the thing about archery is you need to do what's comfortable. There's no right way to shoot, because if there was a right way to shoot, you'd look down the line at Vegas and every archer would be shooting the exact same. They're not, right?
Yeah. It's got to be the
They're all
most
different.
comfortable, because that's what you're going to be most consistent at.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You're going to be the most consistent. So you can tune a bow to any person, any archer, but the archer should not be manipulating, should not be adjusting what's comfortable to them for their bow. Right.
Mhm.
And that's why I do it that way. That way I can get my peep sight exactly where it needs to be. So basically I can draw back with my eyes closed. I can open my eyes and I can see my scope clear as day, perfect circle inside my peep house, inside my peep picture.
Yeah. I think that kind of working it like that, you're controlling a lot more variables as you're shooting through paper, and it just goes to show how those little things can add up when you're trying to tune. And that's just why I think it's so important. Whether you want to start with having that peep sight on first or last, or like wherever you're at, wherever your bow's at, you just want to shoot through paper. But the point is, just these little things can throw off what that arrow is going to do, how that arrow is going to tear through paper. I mean, dude, you can literally grab a bow right now and hold your grip like this, like way over this way, and shoot through paper, and you're gonna get a tear one way, knock another arrow, over grip that thing like you're choking somebody out, and then shoot again and get a completely different tear. So it's like, before you even it's like all these little things can add up, and that's why it's so important too to practice all the time and be the most consistent. Because I'm saying this because, like, ask me how I know. Like, when I started doing this, I was like, why am I getting all these? I couldn't even get consistent tears to start fixing the problem. Things were just all over the place.
Yeah,
So
and it's
yeah.
important to recognize that as well. And that's the thing is, like, you get a lot of people who there is a lot of information online. There's a lot of good information online. However, that information online does not apply to every person. A good shooter can shoot any bow and make good shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could shoot the best, most tuned bow in the world. If, like you said, if your grip is not locked down, if your anchor is not stable, if your shot process is not dialed in, your shot is not going to be consistent. You're not going to consistently be hitting behind the pin. You're going to have bad tears. You're going to have, inconsistencies downrange where you're going to notice that the most. And you'll be like, man, what's going on here? What's wrong with this bow? And we always want to blame the equipment before us. But, like,
Right.
the biggest thing is you just need to shoot, right? And for especially people, if you're picking up a bow for the first time, shoot a lot. Like, just shoot. Don't shoot every day if you're new, because you're going to hurt your shoulder. Shoot low poundage. You don't have to shoot like Josh Bomar, 90 pounds, right? The guy's been shooting his whole life. Shoot 40 pounds and just shoot a lot. Just shoot a lot. Get comfortable with it. Get comfortable with your anchor. Just try to build the most consistent shot you can. And then from there, everything else will work out. And the thing is, don't get too worried about like hand torque and all these other terms if you're new. Matthias Fullerton, one of the best archers in the world, told me he has such bad hand torque, he nearly derails his bow because of how bad his hand torque is. Now, I don't care who you are. You can't go to a guy like that, a world class, one of the best in the world, and say you're shooting wrong. You just can't. You just can't do it.
This is funny because it reminds me, like growing up, I played baseball a lot, and I feel like it's so similar to like a batting stance. It's like when you're in Little League, everybody's like telling you like, no, everybody's got to do the same. You got to do like this is the way to do it. But then you watch guys in the pros, and they got like all these. Some of them have like goofy batting stances, but like it works for them, and that's what they're consistent with, and everything, and that's what they practice with every day. So like they have it consistent, and then if they need to adjust things from there, they can. But like I feel like archery's so similar, where it's like you just got to show up and be consistent, and then you can sure there's some general rules of thumb. You don't want to overgrip the bow, like start with the general rules of thumbs, and then kind of work from there. I think that's a good tip.
Yeah, exactly. You want the general room. You don't want like just because Matthias does it, don't do it. You don't want to grip your riser too hard. You want a nice relaxed grip. You want a consistent anchor. You don't want a bow that has too much draw length on it. You don't want one that's going to be too short. You don't want to be shooting too much poundage. You don't want to be shooting too light. So all these little things, but you really learn all these things, and you really get a feel for your bow and for yourself when you do a lot of shot. Like that's the biggest thing. That's why I tell everybody, I'm like, you want to be a better shooter, just shoot more arrows, and that's it. Like once you get those 50,000, 100,000 reps down range, you're really gonna start to understand archery and just what works for you, what you need to do to be consistent. And then the more you do it, the more you're going to find you like it, and then you're going to learn. And hopefully in the meantime, you're building these relationships with your pro shop, spending more time with them, spending more time with other archers too is a big thing, right? Learning all these little things from other archers, how you're drawing back your bow. If you're shooting a hinge release, am I pulling too much with the top of my hand as opposed to the inside of it, with my index finger, and all these little things that are going to help you just pull through the shot a lot more if that's what you're doing, or if you're punching the trigger. And there's nothing wrong with punching the trigger. I actually switched mine, so I'm actually punching the trigger again rather than pulling through the shot. And I pulled through the shot for a long time, and I just found it more effective to just punch the trigger. That way, when I need that shot to break, it breaks the exact time that I want it to.
So are you using like a index release?
No, I use a thumb button.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, people do it, and it's just another one of those things. If it works for you, it works. So so let's run through the scenario. Say somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, I've been wanting to check my tune. I don't really know much about this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to hang up a piece of paper in my basement tonight, and I'm going to shoot a few arrows, and I'm going to see what the hell this looks like. So let's just say this guy, he shot 6 arrows through paper, and he's consistent, which is good. But he is knock right. He's knock right by half an inch. So he's like, okay, what do I do?
So he's point left, knock right. Well, if he doesn't, like most of the time, depending on your bow, if you're running like PSC now, they even have those little shims that are easy to pull out. And like I said, you want to move your cams to your knock or your rest to your rest to your point. So if you have a point left tear, so your arrow's going in before your veins, right? You're going to see your veins. You're going to see 3 or 4 little veins and a point to the left of them. You're going to want to move your rest to your point. So you're going to have to like micro adjust it. Like don't take it and move it 12 notches over to the left. Don't do that.
No.
Like move
a lot
it,
of these newer rests with the micro adjust, they make things really easy. You're just loosening up a little Allen screw and then just tick tick tick.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'm going to show you some of the rests. I'm going to take a picture of a couple rests. I was actually just cleaning out one of my cabinets he had on the weekend. I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to send it to you. You got to see this old school rest, like a stringy rest and these other flip rests that are like, yeah, you're going to be blown away, but I'll send you a couple pictures. But anyway, yeah, so you want to move. If I would personally, if somebody has that, I would say take your bow down to your shop and tell them you have a knock right tear, move your cams to your knock. I don't like taking my bow off center shot. And what center shot is your arrow is perfectly in line with the center of your bow. That's called your center shot. I do not like taking my bow out of center shot. Now, however, I do take my bow out of center shot if I'm doing any walkback tuning or any broadhead tuning. So typically for me, I do paper tuning, then I do walkback tuning because I shoot adjustable, and I shoot from 20 to like 130, and there's a lot of variance between where my pin is at 20 and where my pin is 130. So I have to do a lot of walkback tuning. But I would say if you have to move your rest, move it towards your point, but just move it very, very slowly, very small. Take your time, and make sure, don't just shoot it once either. Like, shoot it a couple times.
Yep.
Make sure it's not you, right? And if you're getting tired, and be honest with yourself. If you make a bad shot, forget it. Disregard it. Put up a new piece of paper. Say, nope, that was junk. I got to shoot again. And that's one of the biggest things too, is just being honest with yourself. I mean, saying that you had a good shot and you didn't, and you didn't, whether, like, if it's a bullet hole and you felt it was a bad shot, shoot it again. Double check. Shoot it twice. Shoot it 3 more times, right? Double check these. Make sure, because it's only going to benefit you more to have a really well-tuned bow. So just be honest with yourself. But like I said, if you don't have the ability, if you don't have a press, if you don't have a shop, move your rest a little bit. And the same thing goes for high or low. You can move your knocking point. You can also adjust your timing on your bow, depending on it. Now, the thing is, a left or right tear could also be a spine issue in your arrow. So either it's too stiff of a spine, or most of the time it's from being too weak, right? Typically, too stiff is generally not a problem. And if you're unsure, always try to lean to a stiffer arrow than a weaker arrow.
So when you're buying arrows, you can look at an arrow chart. It'll be on the box of the arrows you buy, or you can go online. Say you want to buy Easton arrows. You can just Google Easton arrow chart, and then you'll follow the top and side columns of like your draw weight and your poundage, and it'll tell you, your poundage and your draw length, and it'll tell you what spine of the arrow that should be. And the lower the number, the stiffer the arrow.
Yeah.
When I'm
it's
always,
yep.
I feel like when I look at this, I'm always like in between two.
Mm-hmm.
I always go the lower number. Because like you said,
definitely.
A little bit more stiff
charts,
is good.
And those charts are meant for a 100 grain tip with like if it's an Easton, with a hit insert, right? So that's like a 12 grain aluminum insert.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to put on, 125 Beast Broadhead, or, 150 grain Sever, it's going to change, it's going to weaken your arrow, right? Because you add weight to the front of your arrow, you weaken it. If you add weight to the back of your arrow, to the knock of your arrow, you stiffen. So by adding wraps, by adding more veins, Gold Tip even has those weights you can put on your knock to stiffen your arrow.
Yeah, and I've played around with this a good bit just to, like, I've even had longer wraps and cut them down, just to try to get like things perfect. But even not even going that far, it's that's something important to see on there too, because if you think about it, when you're adding weight to the end of an arrow, like my mind always just goes to like this wet noodle, like you're weakening it, like you're putting, like if you were to throw like a hammer through the air and that hammer is like top heavy, it's like that's what you're doing when you're adding that more weight. It's flexing. It's flexing more. It's just weaker. So you don't want that, because if you think like this wet noodle flying through the air, the more it's going to flex and go like that, and then it's finally going to hit the target. One's going to hit way over here. One's going to hit way over here, way over here. That's why the spine chart will tell you which arrow, and if you need to be between two, go to the stiffer side. And I like how you said too about center shot, because that's where I was kind of leaning towards too. I've had scenarios where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna move my rest a little bit and call this good, because that's all I needed to do. But do you have like a point where like you're like, I'm not moving my rest past this point, like I need to do something else?
Yeah, and so like I said, I'll the only time I'll move my rest is if I'm walk back tuning. And for those who don't know, I can walk through walk back tuning and I'll do it. So basically what you do is you find a nice big target. And well, I mean, for instance, if you've ever gone to 20 yards and you've been hitting the bullseye every time, right? And then you walk back to like 60 yards and you're like, man, all my arrows are going to the right. So then you move your pin to the right, follow your arrows, right? And then, now you're nailing. Now you're hitting knocks at 60 yards, and then you go back to 20, and everything's to the left again. You're like, what the heck's going on here, right? And then so you move it to the left. Is it me? Am I changing my anchor? Am I looking through my sight a different way? What's going on? Did my bow fall over? Right? And you're shooting good. You go back to 30, and you're like, oh, now it's 2 inches to the right. And you go back to 60, now it's 4 inches. What happens is there's a little bit of plane on your sight. So what happens? So the way you can do this is if everything lines up, it's all perfect. Your second, third axis are all good. You still need to walk back tune, because all these bows and everything, you can get the bubble perfectly, but it doesn't solve everything. You still have to do these other little things to get rid of this. So you basically get a big target, and then at the top of the target, take one of your target pins or take a screw and then run some D-loop material or some serving and tie like a weight, a stabilizer weight or a nut to it. And you just basically want to make like a pendulum. You want something hanging that's perfectly like straight down. Don't run a piece of tape because it could be in a little bit of an angle. It needs to be perfectly vertical with the ground.
Okay.
So
yeah,
then
that's
you're
smart.
going to shoot at 20. And it's going to hit the line. Okay, then you're going to walk back to 30. Using your 20 pin, you're going to shoot at the same line, the same point at the very top of you're going to shoot at the very top of the string. Don't shoot at the middle, always shoot at the top, right? And now your arrow is going to hit a couple inches lower, depending on the speed of your arrow. And you're going to find your impact point is a few inches to the right. And you're going to go back to 40. It's going to be a little further to right, but it's going to be down. And you're going to go back to 50. It's going to be even further. It's going to be a little further down because you're still using your 20-yard pin. You're going to get back to 60 and you're going to shoot. So now what happens is, now what you got to do to solve that is now you need to move, you have to micro adjust like tiny, tiny little hairs. So you're going to move your rest a little bit. You're going to adjust your rest, right? Whatever which way it's going, you're going to move it in that opposite direction. So then you're going to shoot again. And then you're going to notice that your arrows, at 60 yards, your arrows, instead of 4 inches, is 2 inches. So then double what you just did. Do that again. Now it's right in the line. Now when you go to 20, it's hitting the line. And now when you go back to 60, it's hitting the line. You're dialed in. You're perfect, right? Because the reason it's doing that, everything is magnified the further away you get, right? At 20 yards, it's still good. Nothing's out of whack. Everything's good because you're so close still. But as you're getting further back, your sight, your rest and your string, the angle of your rest and your string is throwing that off because they're not perfectly parallel from where your pin is at 20 to 60. So that's why it's important to do that. So I do that. And then also broadhead tuning is another time when I'll move my rest just to make sure that my broadheads are hitting. I don't feel they need to hit exactly where my field tips do, but they need to hit close, because the reason they do, and the reason it's important not to just move your sight, is like earlier you talked about you're holding your pen and you talked about like your arrow, like just imagine your arrow dog tracking off your bow, right? The point is facing, here we can go like this. So you got your point aiming one way and your nock aiming the other way, and it's basically just it's driving like this off an angle. And what's helping it steer is the vanes, right? The vanes are going to kick in and it's going to steer your arrow in the direction where you set your bow up for it to go. The problem is now your arrow is flying like this when it should be flying like you talked about earlier, and you and I were talking about, you want it to be a perfect bullet hole, right? You want it to be flying perfectly straight off the string. So that's why it's important to not just move your sight, because if your arrow with your broadhead is if your broadhead is wanting to pull your arrow to the left and your vanes are trying to fight to keep it straight, right now now everything's just working against itself. It's not flowing in that nice perfect parallel, the trajectory that it's meant to be off your string or bow.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the broadhead tuning, because that's kind of what I wanted to like finish with. But the walk back tuning, that's something I think anybody can do. And if you can set that up and be confidently hitting in that same line back out to 60, it's like, dude, you got it. Like, you're good.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's really easy to find that. I know for the longest time I dealt with this is like you're shooting so well at 20 and then you go back to 60 and you're just a little bit to the right and you're like, what the heck is going on here? And you move your sight and then you go back to 20 and now it's the opposite way. And like, it's so frustrating. Simple walk back tuning, easy to do. You don't have to move your cams. You can just do it with your rest. Super simple, right? And it's important because, if you're making a stalk on a mule deer and, he's at 20 yards and you're confident, he steps behind a tree and now he's at 35 and he's moving to 40, right? Now he's expanding that gap between you and him. You want your arrow, number one, you want to be confident in your equipment. Number two, you want your arrow to be hitting where you're going to put it, right? You don't want to be 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right because, as any bow hunter knows, and like these things do happen, right?
yeah,
No matter how much we practice, how many arrows we shoot. I had this happen on a bear hunt in Manitoba this year. My shot was a little low, right? What happened was the stand was a little close. My angle was a little too steep. And the arrow went through, caught his one lung, and missed his second lung and came out the bottom, like the very front of his stomach, just because the angle was so steep, right? I should have put it up a little higher. That would have allowed me to catch the top of the lung on the first lung and still get, probably the lower 1/3 of the bottom, his back lung. Luckily, I did find the bear. It was a hell of a stalk. I mean, we were man on our hands and knees stalking that thing through that thick Manitoba bush. But
I wanted to ask you about that bear hunt too, because that was a sweet bear, man. Great work, and I love that video too.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
so Landon, Pete, and Derek, Pete, and I, we went out with Landon and another friend of ours, Mock. And this is my third trip out there. So in BC, where I'm from, you're not allowed to bait bears. Northern Alberta, you're allowed to bait bears. Southern Alberta, where Derek is, you're not. And Landon, I was out with Landon. Was it last year? Yeah, last year, and he killed like a 530-pound cinnamon color, like color phase, just a friggin' monster of a bear.
Nice.
And 2 years before that, Muck killed a 550-pound bear. The bear I've been hunting now for 2 years. We call him Piss Tank. He's about 550. But these bears are like big mule deer, man. They're smart. And they, everybody thinks that just because there's bait sitting there that the bears are going to run into it. They don't.
Nope.
They don't, man. They're like any other creature out there. You don't get big for being dumb.
Yeah. No, that was I like seeing the pictures, and no, that was great work on that one. I did want to, before you wrapped up, because we talked about broadhead tuning, what are just a couple things you think guys could, because again, support your local bow shop. Mine, Creek Archery, about an hour and a half south of Pittsburgh, right off 70 in Roughdale, PA. Give them a plug here. Great people. You go in there, like you go to the back, and like they'll be working on your bow, whatever's going on. And like I've learned so much just from hanging out in the back there, just watching it, and then just bullshitting with the guys, Yeah. Support your shop. But if there's some things you think every guy, every bow hunter, I think we should do our due diligence also as archers. What are some tools you think guys should have at home? Maybe not a bow press, but just these little things like, for tying a D-loop, that little tool. Just like some things like that. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you could even find it. You could probably put it up in the show notes, and I can send you a link. Like even on Amazon, I hate buying stuff off Amazon, but like you can buy. They have a press. They're $50 Canadian, not a press, a vise. A simple vise you bolt to your bench in your shop. Easy to do. Everybody, $50, inexpensive. You should have a vise. D-loop pliers are great, right? There's different types you can get. Some are more expensive than the others. I use, needle nose pliers will work just fine. D-loop material, you can buy that at any of your local. You go see your boys down at your local archery shop wherever you are, Canada or the U.S. Ask them for a little bit of D-loop material.
Oh, dude, yeah, and they
They'll
won't
set
even
you up.
they'll just pull it off the thing and cut
Yeah.
you some, and that's all you need.
Yeah, exactly. I use
Mhm.
BCY 23. I don't use 24, but either will do. I recommend if you're going to get one or the other, go with 23. It's a little more durable. Some serving, 0.18 is fine. 0.21, it'll work just as good. But I use most of mine, for center serving and stuff like that, tying in my peep. I use 0.21 for my soft knots. Typically use something a little softer. I'll use like a 3D or a number 21 for those. Those things you definitely should have an extra peep sight. Learn how to tie in your peep sight. You can also get a little peep sight splitter, which is really handy. Sometimes when you're in the backcountry, you're breaking through bush, especially here in BC, and like I know you hunt in the West. You're breaking through that bush, and all of a sudden your peep sight gets caught on something and it might twist and fall. Not fall out, but just turn to the side. And like you can try to turn it, but if you can just put your splitter in there, move it aside. You should always have a little indicator line, like if you're running black strings, put a little white line on there so you know where it's lined up. Put that splitter in there, center it nice, retie it, learn how to tie it. It's super easy to do. Lots of YouTube content out there to how to tie a peep sight. There's many different ways. To be honest, you can run any standard knot, right? You could probably put bunny ears on there and it would stay in position long enough. Just the main thing is you want to keep hunting. You don't want to be
Right.
5 days in
Right.
and have to head out on day 3. You're gonna have to blow the black country just because, and some guys, man, they you just got drawn for this, right? You have a busy life, you got wives at home, you got a kid, you got obligations, you got 5 days off. Now you're on day 3 of your hunt and something like this happens and you're like, are you kidding me right now? So avoidable.
Yeah, I have one of those splitters. I think it was just a little Amazon thing, but cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this like little red thing. You can just split your strings and twist it, and then you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So pliers too. Like I don't use in my archery kit in my backpack. I don't have pliers, but I do have probably 20 sets in my tool chest of archery stuff. But there's many different types you can have. I suggest everybody have one of those. A level. Get a level. Get an arrow level. They come in as a kit. I think you could buy those at any of the archery stores. They'll have those in there. There's tons of different styles of string levels and arrow levels. And I think those for the most part, that's pretty much it. And just have an understanding of, like, especially with your rest, if you're running a cable rest, understand why it works, how it works, the timing of your rest, arrow rest. Obviously, if you're running a limb driven, it's pretty simple. I run the taut knot, the taut line knot. I don't run like the little football. I find it's just a lot easier to tie that knot. It's super simple. Anyone can just even Google the taut line knot. I could send you a link to a really good YouTube video on that. And it actually, what they do is in that video, they flip the tail end or the tag end around and they run it through the opposite way. I found that works really well for your rest because it just doesn't slip at all. If you tie it the other way with the tag going the same direction, the people listening, they're not going to know what the heck I'm talking about. As soon as you see the video, you will. So I can send you a link to that. But if you're running a limb driven, I highly recommend using that knot. Yeah, man, that's about it.
Sweet, dude. Yeah, I love it. So vise, some pliers, So I think I have that BCY 24. So the 23, a little bit more
I
durable.
use 23. It lasts a lot longer. It's a little harder to tie. It's definitely harder to burn, but it's good. One other good thing is they got guys going into backcountry. make sure you have a little archery kit. Make sure you have your
Yeah.
pliers in there. Make sure you have a D-loop in there. Make sure you have some serving in there. Extra nocks, spare nocks, lighted nocks. I was hunting whitetail once, and I had this one buck, dude, and this thing was a beauty. I don't have that mountain here, but I have it in my other room. And this buck would come in, and he played cat and mouse with me for 5 days, right? And he played cat and mouse with me so long, dude. My light battery in my sight burnt out. So I wasn't shooting lighted nocks on my arrows, but in my archery kit, I had some lighted nocks. And I had a little bit of tape in my backpack, which you should also have. I took one of the lighted nocks, set it, put some electrical tape on top of my sight, and it lit my pins enough for me to kill that buck. Without it, I never would have killed that buck.
That's a good tip. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like the archery. Yeah, the archery kits. I was just trying to think of mine. So, because I wanted to mention this, I was hunting elk in Colorado last year. Dude, I lost my release. Like, could not find it. Like, gone. And I was just thinking, and luckily I had a backup release. And that might have been that day or the next day. That's when I killed that cow elk I shot. And it was
that's another really good point. Point is, I always have an extra release in my bag. I actually have an extra release in my truck. I have one. I have one in my overnight, but I have an extra release everywhere. One thing I hate, and I lose everything. I got to have a lot of releases.
Yeah, and I was so mad because obviously they're not cheap, but like I was like just thinking like, man, I'm already 4 miles in here. I'm at 12,000 feet. Like I'm an hour from this town, but there's no way. It was like this small little mountain town. There was no bow shop. Like, dude, you're talking 5-hour pack out, 2-3 hour drive to go buy a release what you never practiced with before. Like that's not the best thing.
Yeah, and
then
that's a good point too.
to go hunting again, and it's like, dude, yeah. So I was like so happy.
And that's a good point too. Shoot your spare release. Shoot it. Don't just keep it there. That same thing, man, happened to me on an antelope hunt when I was hunting in southern Alberta. I was hunting with a buddy. We're chasing antelope. We made probably a 200-yard stalk from the truck to the inside of the field. I get there and he's like, okay, he's at 100 yards. He's coming in. I couldn't find my release. I was like, oh my God, patted everything around. I'm not going to look, double back now and try to find it. We've been hunting antelope for 6 days, 5 days. This is the 6th day. I quickly grabbed one out of my backpack, had my release, and I ended up killing that antelope. And I was like, man, a good thing I had that spare release, or else, I'd still be chasing those things today.
Dude, yeah. I think that's a good one. And then just a set of Allens. Like I usually have one in my bino harness. Yeah, a little bit of serving, a little bit of D-loop material, that splitter. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I think that's it, dude. I like how you said too, marking your strings. I feel like I have marks for like everything. And I have like even like notes on my phone of like how high my peep sight is above like my knocking point, and like all these like little things written down, like just in case things move, things like, I don't know. I feel like I have too, like I put little silver Sharpie marks on like a lot of different like screws and stuff to like just see where, like I put a line on the screw, then line on the like right where it's lined up, just to make sure things don't come loose. Just little things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's smart. That's the set lines there. That's really smart.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's another good point. Allen keys, make sure you have those in there. That's one thing I forgot. And at home too, make sure you have metric and imperial Allen keys, because for some reason manufacturers like to switch it up. I still to this day don't understand why they can't just either use one or the other. Why can't you use imperial? Why do you have to use imperial and metric?
Yeah. No, I think that's another good tip there, but I think I'll wrap up with that, dude. I appreciate you hopping on. I think we covered a lot of good stuff here, especially if you're the guy starting out, or obviously you've had, even this is great for just the guy that's already had his hands tuning a little bit, picking up a few little nuggets. So, yeah, dude, I think this is a good one.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. anytime. Next time we'll do it on Hunt Source.
Yeah, perfect. Looking forward to it, man. Yeah, all right. I'll let you go. Have a good rest of your evening, dude. Thanks for coming on. And all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
You bet. Send it.
Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.